It has been a minute. The question is, do I even know how to do this anymore? Let's talk about all of the books that I've read so far in 2026. Just for your information, last year I read 120 books by this time. As of today, I've read 56 books. And there's so many reasons for that, but one of those reasons is going back to my goals for 2026. And one of my goals was to read less books in order to avoid having a reading slump. So let's go over the 56 books that I've read so far, what I rated them, what I think about them, and do I recommend them. The first book I read by the way, if I'm looking down, it's because I'm just looking at my list. But the first book that I read in 2026, starting off with a bang, is The Ascended. So if you've read Riftborn or Driftmark, is that right? If it's not, you'll see the book covers. You know how I do. If you've read these two books, then maybe you gave them 5 stars, maybe you gave them 4 stars, but you enjoyed them because I recommended them. But The Ascended is a clear sweeping 5 stars. It is the best book so far, and this is a prequel series, but I guess it's a series of standing on its own. I'm not sure, but it's definitely connected to Riftborn, Driftmark. It's been so long since I read these books, I'm not even sure if I'm saying the right names, but I will have the book covers up. If you like those books, but you weren't necessarily convinced on the series, read The Ascended. That was an easy 5-star read for me. The next book wasn't so much of a fairy tale. So Sophia Saint Germain, I read a lot of books by this author last year in 2025, and I really enjoyed them for the most part, except for maybe the last 2 books in the series, and this is book number 4. Book number 4, A Fate So Dark and Delicate. This was the finale, and I unfortunately rated this book 2 stars. The series in general, I do recommend the series in general, but by book 2, it started to become one of those voyage traveling books, and not in the good way. So is it really a good way? Lord of the Rings is debatable, but it became a traveling book, and I really don't enjoy those because it's just, I don't think you have enough story. I don't think you have enough ideas that you've written out in order to really flesh out the story. So you have traveling and then a bunch of sex scenes, and that does not carry a plot. So for that reason, I gave that book 2 stars. I discovered a new author this year. It is Ben Alderson, and I read the first book in his series, Realm of the Fae. Is that right? Let me check. Realm of the Fae, and I thoroughly enjoyed this author's writing. So he writes fantasy romance, which is completely in the pocket of what I want to read, and it was not a disappointment whatsoever. The first book is called A Betrayal of Storms. This was an easy 5-star rating for me. I'm gonna go and read the blurb really quick for you guys. It is perfect for fans of A Court of Thorns and Roses and From Blood and Ash, and I'm a fan of both of those. This new fantasy romance about a half-fae boy and his personal guard preventing a war between the realms. Ooh. It was good. It was 5 stars. I definitely do recommend this. I read this in January, and I stick with that recommendation. The next book I read was book number 2 in the Realm of the Fae series by Ben Alderson. This is A Kingdom of Lies, and this was almost a perfect 5-star for me. I ended up giving this a 4.75 rating. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoying our couple at this point, and really enjoying the writing. I followed that up with the 3rd book in the series, which is called A Deception of Courts. I gave this 4 stars, and I started to notice a trend. 5 stars, the second book 4.75, the 3rd book 4 stars, and I'm thinking, oh please don't let the series end up in a bad way. But the final book in the series, A Game of Monsters, I also ended up rating that 4 stars. In general, I do recommend the series. So the Realm of Fae series in total, the 4 books that are out so far, I definitely recommend all of them. Ben Alderson became a quick favorite author for me this year. So I continue to read his new series, which just had a book release, I think last month, that I did read last month, but I'll get to that as I get to May and April reads. But the first book in this series, The Witch and His Crow, I ended up rating that 4.75. I liked this even more than the Realm of the Fae books because there's so much going on. And also the sexuality of our main character is not cut and dry, and I enjoyed that aspect in the story. Yeah, if that's something that you are interested in, if that's something that you like, it's witches. We have a witch who hunts witch hunters, and it really gave, who did this give? Our main male character gives a male version of Sarah Fane from Quicksilver. Not Quicksilver, Sarah Fane. Yeah, Sarah Fane from Quicksilver. Or Selena Sardothien, but male and the witch. Also, what is that? The Rebel Witch, but the Crimson Moth. It also kind of gives that. So if you are looking for that, but an MM version, it definitely gives that. Okay, so I ran out of things of Ben Alderson to read, or at least I wanted to take a break. And then I went to K.L. DeVore, and I finally read The Embrace of Steel and Sorrow. So The Embrace of Steel and Sorrow is the prequel, or at least it was supposed to be the prequel to, what is the name of that series? I just have to look up so many things because it's been so long. A Touch of Golden Madness. So The Embrace of Steel and Sorrow is supposed to be the prequel to this, but the storylines were so connected that I actually got confused in thinking about it as a prequel. But The Embrace of Steel and Sorrow, I like that even more than A Touch of Golden Madness, and I ended up rating it at 4.75. And the thing that confused me about it being a prequel, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's not a prequel at all, but the thing that confused me about it is they were talking about things that happen in the current storyline. So I'm really excited to go further into this series as well as the other series, A Touch of Golden Madness, that series, because it's not the same series. But anyway, I'm ready and I'm happy and I'm excited to go further in both of the series. Stasia Stark, I picked up her for the first time this year. We Who Will Die. I ended up rating this book 4.5 stars. And this book gave very similar vibes to Jasmine Mass books, in my opinion, without there being the reverse harem aspect. It gave very strong Jasmine Masters vibes. If you like that kind of dark humor or crass humor, then maybe you'll like this. Also, our main male character in this leans morally black versus morally gray. Not morally black, just very gray, morally gray. But I really enjoyed it. 4.5. I can't wait to read something else by Stasia Stark. Hold on. Is Stasia Stark the one that wrote? Hold on. I have to look at something. I thought Stasia Stark also wrote a book that I really hated last year, and it's a different author. I read the most up-to-date version, or the latest release from Ryan Cahill, which is of Empires and Dust. I'm not even pretending like I remember these names. Of Empires and Dust. I read that's book number 4. It took me a minute to read this because I really didn't care for book 1. Book 2, I liked book 1. That's not true. I liked book 1. I think I rated book 1 4 stars. Book 2 was just okay for me. Book 3, I was debating about not finishing the series. Book 4, I gave it 3.75. It was better than the 2 prior to it. But it took me so long to get through this book. So long to get through it. And you know what? So long for me is 2 weeks. I have a friend who that so long is the whole month. I'm not going to say your name. If you see this video that I'm talking about you, no shade, no tea. But it took a long time for me. Anyway, 3.75. And then I went to one of my favorite authors from last year, Daryl Banner, and read Hopeful Romantic. So Daryl Banner writes the Spruce, Texas romance series that I'm really loving. This was a 3-star read for me. It was just okay. Even right now, I'm like in the middle of reading a Daryl Banner book that I've been reading for a few months because I read it before I go to bed. So most of the Daryl Banner books, I'm like flipping through my Kindle and they help me go to sleep. And that's why those take me so long. But yeah, it was just okay. I recommend the whole series in general. They're very bingeable. The love stories are very easy to consume, very easy to follow. And not all of the characters are going to be characters that you like, but this was book number what, 7? I liked it. 3 stars, but it's a romance, so there's only so much. There are some spectacular romances. It was just okay, y'all. 3 stars. Then I started to read the Shadowhunters books, and I started with City of Bones. So this is Cassandra Clare. I rated City of Bones 4.5 stars. If you have not read the Shadowhunters books and you keep hearing people talk about the Shadowhunters books and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? Why do they keep talking about these books? And you feel like it's too late to read these books because they're old and because they're YA. I'm not YA. But anyway, I would say pick them up. They were still pleasant to read for me, even though I'm not the target audience for that. Plus, I would like to delve further into the story because there is a book releasing this year. Do I think I'm going to read all of the Cassandra Clare books by the time the new release comes out? Of course not. Nonetheless, I read the second book in the series, so A City of Ashes. City of Ashes. I ended up rating that 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I followed it by the third book. Once you pick up one book, you have to pick up the next, and so on and so forth. I picked up the third book, City of Glass, ended up rating that 4.25 stars. I'm not going to tell the storyline of the Shadowhunters books only because I've watched the show so many times and I don't know what would end up being a spoiler for the books and what's not a spoiler for the books, so I would just rather skip that. Especially until I finish reading and then I know for sure what's a spoiler and what's not. I went back to K.O. DeVore and I read Shade of Chrome and Malice, which was book 2 in that prequel series. And it was so good. That the prequel series is granted, there's only been one book that has been released for A Touch of Golden Madness, but the prequel series, y'all, is so good. Is it a prequel series? Is it not a prequel series? Can you guys let me know in the comments? Now, at this point, I'm confused. I don't know. I went to Holly Renee. So this is a first time reading Holly Renee. I have a couple of first time authors in here this year. So Holly Renee, I read a whole series by Holly Renee, and this is A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows. I ended up rating it 4.5 stars. It wasn't perfect, and to be honest, I really don't remember the storyline for this. So I don't know if that's good or bad. But I did read the second book in the series, A Kingdom of Venom and Vows, and I rated that 4 stars. It always makes me worry when I start to read a series and then my ratings go down. If my ratings stay the same, fine. But if my ratings start to go down, I'm like, oh. So because my rating went down on the second book, I went back to Cassandra Clare and I read City of Fallen Angels, and that got 4 stars for me. Enjoyed that. So I decided to go back to Holly Renee and I read Kingdom of Fire and Fate, and that ended up getting 2.5 stars from me. So that is not a good sign. And that makes me question whether or not I recommend the series, and the fact that I don't even remember it at this point should probably tell you what I thought of it. I went back to Cassandra Clare and read City of Lost Souls, and I gave that 3 stars. In a long series like this, I don't expect every book to hit. Even in Zodiac Academy, which I love, and many of you have probably found me because you saw me reviewing Zodiac Academy. I love Zodiac Academy, but not every book hit. I don't think there was a book lower than 3.5 stars in Zodiac for me personally, but not every book hit. Then I went to, I'm not sure how to say this author's name, but I read Warrior Princess Assassin, which a lot of people did recommend this book last year. And I finally got into it for myself and I loved it. And this is by Brigid Kemmerer. I'm so sorry on the pronunciation because I know it's not right. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I 100% recommend this. I could not stop talking about this to my coworkers. So if this is a book that you are hesitant about reading, you should definitely go pick this up. So we have the warrior and the assassin who are both in love with the princess, but then the warrior and the assassin kind of. So if you are interested in bisexual kind of reading, I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. I thought it was going to be some kind of reverse harem type situation. But if you're interested in bisexual kind of thing, if you need a trigger warning for that, or if that's something that bothers you, then maybe that's not something for you. But if that is something that you like, something extra spicy, then Warrior Princess Assassin is definitely for you. And also this year, I believe in September, book number 2 is coming out, and I have high expectations for that. Oh, that was actually the last book I read in February. Okay, so now we're in March, and we go to one of my favorite authors, Lita Blake. And this book is Heat for Sale. I think last year I read Bully for Sale, which was actually book 2 in this series. This year I read Heat for Sale. So good. So good. And the story is kind of messed up. Yeah, the story's messed up, and I can't say too much because it would really be a spoiler. But I want to say, no, I can't say that. I can't say that. But it is so good. And I ended up giving this 4.75 stars. The only reason I ended up giving this 4.75 stars is just because at the end of it, even though I like the story and I like the couple, like the backstory, I just could not get behind the backstory. Backstory is so bad. I could not give this 5 stars, but 4.75 stars. Lita Blake has never written a book that's gotten lower than 4 stars for me. One of my favorite authors, and I 100% recommend this. The Wrath of the Fallen. I want to like Amber V. Nicole's writing so much. And the first book in this series, which is up here, by the way. The first book in the series, I did enjoy it. I really did enjoy it, but oh my God, the writing starting to just, ugh. Book 3, oh, my cat. Okay, 1 second, y'all. Book 4, it was better than book 3, but I'm not sure that I'm even convinced that I want to read further on in the series, y'all. I have to think about that. Another favorite author, Melissa K. Rorick, released her next series. So we're in the 3rd series in all of these in this interconnected fantasy world, Tortured Souls. So yeah, Tortured Souls. And we are reading about Soren. Is it Soren? Hold on, man. I gotta look. What's his name? What is his name? Sathan. Okay, Sathan. Woo! Sathan. If I couldn't find it real quick, I would. He was gonna be Scarlett's brother. But anyway, Sathan. In Lady of Darkness, or I believe we meet Sathan in Lady of Starfire or something like that. Now, it's been several years since I read the Lady of Darkness books because I read those when they were indie published, right when they were coming out. But in those books, we see Sathan, and we like Sathan. We root for Sathan. We also see his relationship with his wife, Akalia, and we like their relationship. Their relationship is nice. This book, oh my God, their relationship is so toxic, and I loved it. 4.5 stars. I really did love it. Yeah, their relationship is so toxic, and also it's giving reverse harem, but I'm not sure because we see these characters later on in Lady of Darkness. I'm not sure how this is going to end up being. I'm so curious though, and I do feel like the next book is going to be a 5-star read. Melissa K. Rorick never misses, and she's another one like Lita Blake. No book has ever gotten less than 4 stars from me. So, Half Bad. If you saw, it's not even called Half Bad. It was a show on Netflix called Half Witch and the Devil Himself, or something like that. The Bastard Son and the Devil Himself was a series that came out on Netflix in 2022. And y'all, I fell in love completely with the series, and it got nominated for awards, and it was in the top list on Netflix, and a lot of people loved the show, and fans of the books ended up loving the show. I had no idea it was based on the book, so guess what I did? I ordered those books, but I didn't get around to those books until this year. So I started with the first book, Half Bad. And Half Bad, it wasn't half bad. I gave it 3.75 stars. I enjoyed it. I just loved the show more. The next book that I got into was Half Wild. I ended up rating that 4 stars. I really enjoyed that. And the last book, Half Lost, was also 4 stars for me. So it's always good when a series maintains. It's not good when a series goes down. Because I can say this because I don't think these are spoilers. And plus, the Netflix show is out. So this probably would be in the trailer. But you have a biracial kid who is a witch, and there are 2 different kinds of witches. So his mom is one kind of witch, his dad is another kind of witch, and these witches hate each other. And we see him navigating through that. We also see him navigating through some bisexual elements, which are more prevalent in the TV show than they are in the actual books. So I do have to say that was something that was a little bit disappointing to me, because I did enjoy how much more bisexual he was in the show versus the books. But anyway, in general, I do recommend that series, by the way. So, staying in March, we read our first book by Kate Golden, Half City. I know this book has a lot of, or is divisive in the book community for some reason. Some people say that this is Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a book form. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. Our main female character is some kind of demon hunter, but I don't know if I would necessarily say that she is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I don't know if I would say that. But in general, I am on the side of the people that absolutely love this series. It was a 5-star read for me, and I do recommend that you read it. Because I loved We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark, I decided to go into her discography and read more books. So I read A Court This Cruel and Lovely, which has been recommended to me so many times from Audible. So I decided, I just read one book, why not read the next? A Court So Cruel and Lovely, I gave the first book 4.25 stars. So good, so far so good. Read the next book, I gave it 4.75 stars. The next book is called A Kingdom This Cursed and Empty. Okay. Still good, still good. I read the 4th book, A Crown This Cold and Heavy, 4.5 stars. And then I read the 4th book, A Queen This Fierce and Deadly, 4.5 stars. You thought I was going to give it a bad rating, right? I thought I was too, because now I'm going back and I'm reading. But in general, I enjoyed them. I would not say, I've rated all of the Stasia Stark books that I've read high. But I would not say that Stasia Stark is a favorite author of mine, only because even though I rated her books high, it's not books that I think about after, which is why none of them are 5 stars for me. Anyway, Briar Bolin. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that, but this is the newest release by Briar Bolin, The Wings That Bind. I really enjoyed this, and I enjoyed this much more than the first book, and I gave this 4 stars. I enjoyed the first book, but I enjoyed this one more. I feel like there was more plot, there were more answers to the questions that we didn't have, and still more questions to be had. I really enjoyed it. If you don't know about this, it is a story of our FMC who gets transported into this world. She's a fae, although she's keeping that part a secret. And she's transported into this world that's ruled by vampires. There are dragons in this, there are shifters in this, and it actually gives a Zodiac Academy vibe, in my opinion. So if you like Zodiac, then you will probably like this. Another new author for me this year was L.J. Andrews. I picked up A Curse of Shadows and Thorns, which got 4 stars, or 4.75 stars from me. Really enjoyed it. What is that? Olivia Rose Darling. I read a book by her last year that was just okay, and it took me a long time to read book number 2, Wrath of the Dragons, but I believe Wrath of the Dragons also released this year, or at least it released traditionally published. I picked this up and I enjoyed it much more than I liked the first book, but I still only rated this 3.25 stars because it was hard for the story to fully grab my attention. And maybe it could have been because of the time or because of what I was doing, but it was really hard for the story to grab my attention. And by the time I got to the end of it, I thought, okay, that was good, that was decent. But would I read that again? No, and that's why it's a 3.25. I went back to LJ Andrews and I picked up A Court of Ice and Ash. Another 4.75 star read for me. So The Broken Kingdom, so far so good, series-wise. I have not continued on in the series, although I really do like it, only because I read the beginning of the 3rd book, and it's a total shift in characters, and I wasn't ready for a shift in characters. So I need to mourn the loss of the 2 main characters that I really like, and then I will go on and read book 3. I reread ACOTAR this year in preparation for ACOTAR 6 and 7. Is that right? Is it? Yeah. In preparation for ACOTAR 6 and 7, I reread ACOTAR. I'm not going to go through every book. Every book was a 5-star rating for me. And 5 stars this time because, to tell you the truth, the first time I read ACOTAR, I really hated the first book. I just kept reading anyway because everybody kept going crazy, but I hated the first book. The second book, I was like, yes. 3rd book, yes. But this time, all of the books got 5 stars for me, including the 5th book. I was a huge Nesta hater the first time that I read ACOTAR. And I thought there were way too many sex scenes in the 5th book, but oh my God. Whew. Okay, brief intermission from me almost dying. I thought there were way too many sex scenes in the 5th book. But reading it for the second time, I understand why there were so many sex scenes. We really needed to use the sex in this particular scenario in order to develop Cassian and Nesta. It just wouldn't have happened without it. Which I don't know how I feel about the fact that I just said that, but it was necessary. And the author wrote it, so I'm not going to have any feelings about it. The 3rd book in the Sins of the Zodiac series came out in April. Cindervale, and this was the best book so far. It's the 3rd book. There's only so much I can say, but there are warring elemental tribes, and this is a more sophisticated version of Zodiac Academy. That's all I'm going to say on that. I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The Twisted Sisters pretty much never miss as far as I'm concerned. And we are fully into April now. Okay, so Kate Golden wrote Half City. And because I gave Half City 5 stars, I decided to read the Precious Stones trilogy because I was not convinced that I wanted to read that. And I loved it. A Dawn of Onyx, I gave it 5 stars. And now I'm thinking, okay, Kate Golden. I need to pick up Kate Golden when I see her name. Book 2 in that Witch series by Ben Alderson also released in April. And I picked that up, and that was a 4.5 star book for me. Super duper enjoyed it. Jumped back into Kate Golden. A Promise of Peridot, or Peridot. I don't know how you pronounce that. I gave that 4.5 stars. And then the 3rd book in the trilogy, A Reign of Roses, I gave that 4.5 stars. So in general, the Precious Stones trilogy is a trilogy that I do recommend, and I shouldn't have waited to read that. Then I got my wig blown back because I read Nyla K for the Fans for the first time. This will definitely be something that I reread and reread and reread. The beginning of this book, I was not sure what to think about what I was reading because this was supposed to be an MM romance. And I'm like, they genuinely hate each other. I just did not see it happening. And then when it happened, I was like, even when it was happening, I'm talking in circles. Even when it was happening, it was hard to believe that it was happening, but it was so good. Rights of the Starling. I am not going to lie to you. Shields of Sparrows, y'all, I hated that book. But I convinced myself to read Rights of the Starling this year, and I'm so glad I did because I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I think I gave Shield of Sparrows 2 stars or 1 star or something like that really bad. I really hated that book. But book 2 was really good. So if you hated Shield of Sparrows, maybe you should give book 2 a chance. In April, I also read Start With Yourself by Emma Grede. It's a biography, so I don't necessarily believe that you should rate someone's biography. But I really thoroughly enjoyed the book, and I got some nuggets of wisdom. Whether you like what she said or don't like what she said, that's your business. Then I picked up Starside by Alex Astor. I really like Alex Astor. I really enjoyed her other series, her young adult series that is I'm totally blanking on right now. Skyfall, Skyshade, Nightfall, I love those books. I'm totally blanking, but I love those books. Starside was excellent. Her first foray into adult writing was really good. And I certainly do recommend this, and I enjoyed it much more than her other books that are totally escaping me at this point. Last month, I also went back to a favorite series of mine once the author confirmed that Burn of the Everflame is finally freaking being released this year. Spark of the Everflame, I read it again. I gave it 4 stars this time, which is interesting. First time I read it, I think I gave it 5 stars, but I gave it 4 stars this time. I absolutely love this. We have our main female character, DM, who becomes a healer for a palace. It's too many details, I can't explain. We have DM, her mom disappears, and her mom was the healer in the castle. Then DM takes her position in order to make sure that her little brother has funds to go to university. That description is what the first maybe 30-40% of the first book is. And that's probably what you will read on Goodreads, but it is not even 2% of the whole story. But anyway, I rated it 4 stars. I still enjoyed it. Penn Cole is one of my favorite authors still. I will read anything that Penn Cole writes. I have another new author, Heir of Illusion. So this is Madeline Taylor. Heir of Illusion was really good. A lot of people said it was good, but when a lot of people say a book is good, I usually skip it. But in this case, it was actually good. I ended up rating Heir of Illusion 5 stars. Heir of Illusion. What can I say about Heir of Illusion? Nothing, because this video is long enough. After I read Heir of Illusion, I read Glow of the Everflame. So back to Penn Cole. Glow of the Everflame was 5 stars. I don't know anybody that read Glow of the Everflame and didn't rate it something higher than 4.5. And then I read Heat of the Everflame. Now, some people really liked Heat. Some people really hated Heat. But this time I consumed all 3 books via audio. Heat of the Everflame is over 1,000 pages if you're reading it. But the audio was great. It didn't feel very long in audio form. Maybe I would have different feelings if I sat and I read it again. And then I read We Become Darkness. This is a vampire book. You have our female main character who hates vampires, and she gets married off into a vampire kingdom, and her plan is to find a way to eradicate the vampires because they killed her father and her sister. And of course, It's one of those storylines, I'm supposed to kill you, but so she ends up falling in love with a vampire, or so it seems. And that's all the detail I'm going to give you on that. I gave it 3.75. I wasn't truly convinced about the story or the love by the end of it, but I will read the second book, and that's why it doesn't get lower than 3.75. And the last book that I've read so far is Furybound. I loved Direbound. I gave Direbound 5 stars. Furybound, I also loved Furybound, but I gave Furybound 4 stars. Do I recommend the series? Yes. Should we worry that my rating is going down? Probably. I think this book would have gotten 5 stars for me if I liked the ending, and I didn't really like the ending. It was slightly predictable. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and say hello. Tell me you missed me. It's been a long time. Until next time, ciao for now.